Welcome back to Storytime with Alex. We're on chapter 3 now of From Albion to Britannia, book 2, The Last Witch of Old Albion by Brandy Pearson. Teen Secrets with Miss P. Miles is investigating the mysterious disappearance of 5 cats from the Triangle, and Miss P have invited him round to a tea with Ruth. She has something to tell him. Let's find out what. On Saturday, she invited Ruth and me to tea. To cheer her up, as she told my mum and dad and Ruth's mum. She was very apologetic that the cake was shop bought, but she made us all a cup of tea in her best teapot with the cats on it, and we sat around the fire in her sitting room. On her knee was the leather folder of the stories of the witches of Old Albion. "Are you going to read us a story?" Ruth asked eagerly. "Not just yet," Miss P replied, tracing the letters on the front of it with a finger. "This is here for moral support, I suppose. I want to talk to you about what's in these stories, about magic and witches. I'm not sure where to start." I remember the time when I asked her if she was a witch and she didn't say no. But before I could say anything, Ruth blurted it out. "Are you a witch, like in the stories?" "Thank you, Ruth, for giving me a place to start," she replied, smiling for the first time. "I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no, I'm not any kind of a witch. But I do know a witch just like the witches in these stories of Old Albion, because that was where she came from." "Why didn't you tell us before?" Ruth asked. "Because it's a secret, and it's not even my secret, it's the witch's secret. It's not right to tell secrets to children that they can't tell their parents, but I don't think I have a choice. I would love to tell your parents, but I've known them all a long time now, and although they're wonderful people, very loving and including, I think they are not quite able to be open-minded enough to accept the truth of what I want to share with you, and so they might be careless about keeping the secret because they wouldn't think it was real. Do you understand?" We both nodded solemnly. I felt a lump in my throat. Excitement, nervousness, I think it was both. "Well, I'm going to treat you like grown-ups yourselves. You will have to decide if you will keep this secret. I think I know you well enough to believe that you will when I explain it to you. But if this worries you at all, then you are free to tell your parents. Hopefully, if you did, they would believe you anyway." She paused and took a deep breath. "So, do you want me to carry on? I'm sure you want to know the secret, but do you feel like you might be able to keep it?" She looked at us seriously and paused again. "These stories I have told you are not mine. I did not write them. They were written down by the last witch of Old Albion. She writes them like stories to be told because she has always been a storyteller. It was always one of the callings of the witches of Old Albion, and she's always enjoyed telling a good tale. She did not invent these stories. They happened to real people in a land where there were true witches and wizards and real magic." "A land like this one in the Middle Ages, but not quite the same," I said, trying to understand her, trying to keep an open mind. "Precisely," said Miss P. "I know you both well enough to see that Ruth will believe me without a single hesitation, because she would like this to be true. You, Miles, I'm counting on to be a true Fortean, open to the existence of things that do not always fit the way we see the world, but needing to test things out to seek the truth." I felt very grown up when she said that, and tried to fire my brain up to its greatest capacity. She continued, "So, Miles, do you believe that magic is possible?" "My dad says that magic would break the law of physics, so it can't be true. There are people I've read about on the internet who say they're magicians and witches and wizards, but when they write about magic, well, it sounds like something that my dad calls wishful thinking. If you think hard enough about something you want, it will happen. It's not what I would call magic." Indeed, the magic of Old Albion was not wishful thinking. It was energy and power to change things, sometimes gently, to nudge a sick person's body to start healing itself, or to rearrange the earth beneath just enough to bring fresh water to a village well, and sometimes with great forces. I don't believe it was breaking the laws of physics of Old Albion. Scientists can be very clever people, but good scientists will always admit that they don't know everything. Particles and waves, Schrodinger's cat, the observer affecting what they're looking at. And then there's times, history, stories, histories. I was getting a little lost now, and it must have shown on my face. Ruth was looking enthralled. "I'm sorry, Miles, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just say that there was a time and a place where magic existed, and that although this land where we are now is not like that, there is still some magic remaining if you know how to find it, and there is one witch who can use it. If that were true, can you see that she might not want very many people knowing about her? That there might be people out there who would want to use her magic for their own ends, not necessarily very nice people. Ruth spoke up. My mum says that giving people lots of power messes them up. They're messing up the climate and poisoning the oceans and don't care about the future. If those kinds of people had a witch's power, it'd be awful. So a real witch with magic powers would keep herself hidden away, I said. Yes, Miles. But how did she get to be here? I asked. How did she get from old Albion to London in the 21st century? That is another part of the secret, and I don't know that much myself. I've known her for many years, but she does not tell me everything. Indeed, I think she tells me as little as she possibly can. However, she did tell me to look out for certain signs that I should tell her about, because they might mean that someone was about to try something very dangerous. And one of those signs was about cats. I'd almost forgotten about the cats in all this incredible talk of witches and magic. The witch has lived near here for, let's just say, a long time. A very long time. She is much older than she looks. She likes to keep herself, as you said, hidden away. But she always has people like me, she calls us Wardens of the Triangle, which sounds rather grand, to keep an eye on things out in the wider world. There are some things she wants us to tell her about. Not big things, but small local things. And cats going missing in the Triangle are high on her list. The trouble is, I can't go and see her because of this. She pointed to her broken leg. Indeed, I'm wondering if I was tripped up deliberately to make this all more difficult. The witch is not on the phone nor on the internet. It's part of her desire to keep hidden. I believe they call it going off grid. Someone needs to actually go and see her and tell her about the cats. I can't wait until my leg heals. It would take too long. I'm rather hoping that you two will do it for me. Will it be dangerous? I asked. She laughed. Oh no. The worst that could happen is that you couldn't find her, or that if you did she wouldn't let you in. But I really can't tell you how to get to her if you're not willing to keep the secret. She would never forgive me. Well, I'll go, said Ruth eagerly. I was fairly certain that you would, Ruth, but I would like you and Miles to go together. So I want to know that you've both really thought about this question of keeping a secret from your parents. Have you noticed how many children's books about magic have children in them with no parents? They never have to think about this. Well, I said, trying to think clearly, about the magic. People believe in different things, don't they? My granddad in Yorkshire believes that UFOs are visitors from another planet. Mum and Dad thinks he's a bit dotty for believing that, but they always say it's a free country and that he can believe what he likes. So if I choose to believe in magic and a witch, then I'm free to do that, even if I could not convince them, if I told them about it. There was another thought coming, but it was making my brain hurt. Two voices in my head. One, like Miss P's, telling me that magic existed, and another, sounding like my dad, saying it was nonsense, and that no one should believe anything that was not able to be proved. A third voice, which was mine, suddenly said, "But if I believe Miss P, I will meet the witch and be able to prove that it's true. But I would not be able to prove it was true or false if I did not keep the secret." I was trying very hard to make up my mind, and said slowly, thinking it through as I spoke, "When Mum and Dad come home from work, they always ask me how school was, and there are all sorts of things I don't tell them. They don't tell me everything about their work either. Not secrets exactly, but some of my things are just not their business, and some of their things are not my business. This is my business. I don't have to tell them." Ruth was looking at me. I couldn't quite read her expression. "There are some girls at school who tease me about my hair. I don't tell my mum because I can handle it. I've got my own friends and we can look after ourselves. Yes, like you said, not exactly a secret, but I wouldn't tell Mum. I wouldn't tell Mum about this either." I think I gained a new respect for her then. She did think things through sometimes. Miss P looked relieved. "If you've got some time tomorrow afternoon, I would like the two of you to go and talk to her and tell her about the cats and my leg. There will be no one in the yard and fewer trains about. I'll explain it to you tomorrow. It might be more difficult than you think. Part of her hiddenness is magical. but that should provide some of the proof you're looking for. I can invite Ruth over for Sunday lunch, I said. I'm sure Mum and Dad won't mind. They're always trying me to make friends and invite them round. That'd be really cool, said Ruth. My mum is the same, and she often has stuff to do at the weekend. We could come round here afterwards and you can tell us what to do. Wonderful, said Miss P, looking relieved. I'll get ready 1 or 2 things you'll need. It's not very far away, but it is a little complicated. Ruth and I were both very excited, and Mum must have thought it was about inviting Ruth around for a meal, as she seemed ridiculously pleased when I asked her. We said we were going to go for a walk afterwards, probably over to the big park. I thought that probably stopped it being a lie. There you go. Let's find out when they meet the witch in the next chapter.